Where we left off with our adventurers, Garen Peel and Coral One, they had just been sucked through a portal by chaos magic into the world of the ShadowLost. Hi everyone, I'm Michael from Nightyun Games, and I'm developing a new setting for Shadowdark RPG using solo role-playing. If you like what you make sure to hit that subscribe button. Alright, now before we get into things, I was sent something in the mail by Swordfish Islands Games. This notebook is specifically designed for world building and for keeping track of notes and things like that. And I saw someone on a forum recommend it to me. So I reached out to Swordfish Island Games and they graciously provided me a copy to use and review. So I'm going to start keeping track of all of this campaign here in the notebook. I'm going to start filling that out and kind of where we're at so far. So I have flipped through this notebook already and I think it's pretty cool. It's sturdy. It's about digest size. So I think it's actually a little bit shorter. It's got some cool art in front cover. And then there's different sections of this book, which I think is really interesting and I've been really appealing. First off, there's a table of contents and every page is numbered as well. So you can write stuff in it and then put it in your table of contents so you know where to find it later. So you can develop anything in this book in any order because you have the table of contents to help you find it. There also, every 12 page has this black border. So that helps you flip through different sections of the book too. And then there's also these little tabs that you can color. So if you have different sections or something, this could be monsters and this could be spells or whatever, any category thing, you could color those and then find them more easily as well. It's got regional maps, which is pretty cool. And then there's also sub-regional maps, which are really fun. And this is probably my favorite size hex map right here. And then there's just endless other things like this would be for drawing certain types of maps, like dungeon maps. And then of course, these are all dotted. So you can use them in any way you want, whether that's drawing 2D dungeon maps or taking notes. And I just think this is it's a pretty cool notebook. There's even some maps and stuff back here. So if you need something on the quick, you can just flip to the back and say, hey, here's a snake temple or something. Oh, wow. That's super handy. Dang. Oh, and some D20 probability. That's so cool. Oh, and there's common words that describe people. So you don't have to always be thinking about this. You can just roll for that for a quirk or a treat landforms. Oh, this is pretty neat. All right. Thanks again to Swordfish Island Games for sending this to me. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to giving it a go, which I'm going to right now. For some reason, I prefer my hex map sideways like this. I guess it's because I want to turn this into a zine sometime. I think this is a better orientation for a map they manage. I don't know why, just that way in my head. So I'm going to decide, where did Galron and Coral One end up on this map? If the region is roughly this big, where are they? All right, so I'm just going to randomize this by rolling some dice. So I know this grid is 26 across and 10 down. So first I'm going to try out the odds are even. 10's place first. So that's going to be 1, and then 1 through 6, 2, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then 10 down. 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right near the center is where they're going to land. We're going to number this one where Coral One and Garen Peel lands. That's the first text that we find. And then I think we can sort of a characters tab, Garen Peel and Coral One. You know what? I'm going to give each of these guys a full page because if they're the two main characters, they're probably going to need it. They don't have to feel cramped for space either. All right. And then as we find out more about these two, Garen Peel and Coral One, we start fleshing it out because we really haven't talked about their backstory that much, other than they're both hired by the Dwarven Lord to stop Tanar from getting Memnon's Tome of the Archmage. I think I should probably be writing in some of this stuff and might be easier for me later on, I think. Then another character we're going to have here. Tanar Ithing, son of the Dwarven Lord, obsessed with Memnon's Tome of the Archmage. Probably need to put the page numbers there. Bookmark that. 50 is the characters. And then, I accidentally skipped a page. Good thing these are numbered. Page 4 is ShadowLost. Sweet. I guess you could read that in pen too. Awesome. I'm going to keep using this and see how it works out based on the recommendation. Just wanted to say thanks one more time to Swordfish Islands Games for providing it for me. And if you're looking into getting one of these pretty cool notebooks, there's a link down in the description below where you can do just that. All right, now back to the story, and using my other notebook, which is just what I use essentially for scratch paper, we had just found out that Garon Peel and Corwan have come to in an environment they don't recognize, and they lost a lot of their gear. I think what happens next is that suddenly they start to hear a growling nearby, a sort of hissing, and they see a Scrag. So the area that I'm imagining it's on the plains. It's almost a little bit deserty. There's like a rock formation with a lone tree coming up nearby it. And behind the rock formation, they hear a growling hissing. They get up to their feet, and they're dazed, looking around, patting themselves down, trying to figure out what they're missing, because they are missing some of their gear from the previous episode. And as they're watching the rock formation, a long tongue whips at the air, and lumbering out comes a full-on Scrag. A tan monitor lizard as large as a cow, scampering low to the ground on wall-clinging feet. So I'm going to roll for initiative. Garon rolled the highest, and he's going to, as it comes nearby, try to just fend it off by using his sling. 12 hits the Scrag for 4 damage. And he's just trying to scare it off, because this thing is pretty beastly. For 4. That just pisses it off. Next up is Corwan. And Corwan, the wizard, is going to cast Magic Missile. Now, wizards with Magic Missile automatically have advantage on it all times, just part of the spell. So 13 is going to succeed, since it's a level 1 spell. And it's going to do a d4 damage for another 4. Normally, this would require the Scrag to make a morale check, but there's a reason that it's not going to happen this time. But the Scrag is up, and it's looking pretty aggressive. So it's going to actually run up to Tanar and attack it with its claws. That is going to 18. That must hit, right? Oh, absolutely. It's running up to Garon to attack with its claws. And Garon's AC is only 12. That hits for a d6 damage. For 1. Got lucky there. Garon is down to 7 hit points. And this thing obviously means business, so Garon is going to attack it with his pike. And that's going to hit. It's a 2-handed weapon. Does d10. Pretty beastly. For 8. Garon takes the pike and is able to lunge it deep within the neck of this beast. And it flops over and it's down. At this point, Garon and Corwan are just exhausted, but they hear a noise behind the rock still, and they're concerned that there's another one. As they follow the rock, the other side, they see there's actually a baby Scrag back there. And of course, these two aren't heartless, so they feel really bad for themselves, and they feel really bad for what they've done. But they're terrified, and they don't know how they could have done anything any differently. And Garon is going to give this animal one of his rations because he feels bad and the thing looks hungry. It doesn't look like there's much food around. The two try to get their bearings and look around. The baby Scrag seems mostly harmless, and since Garon fed it, it's now wandering around with him a little bit as they scout the area. In one direction, they see mountains. In the other direction, they see plains. In another direction, they see forests. They decide to keep adventuring. I'm trying to put this in a positive light. I'm going to say 50-50. And since the chaos factor is at 6, it goes up 1. So we're going to draw 2, and any yes means they continue adventuring. Exceptional. So they know there isn't much shelter here, so they want to go find it. They see there's forests, there's mountains. Do they go towards the forests? I'm going to say this is 50-50. Again, this is up to 1. So 2, I'm going to draw 2. And 1 has to be yes. Exceptional yes. So they do book to the forest. And that baby Scrag is following along. Now, I say baby, but it's definitely bigger than even a dog. As they travel to the forest, let's take out our notebook here. So we know this is the area they landed. 1, and this is desert. It's using a little Dutch for desert area. And I think this is really how I envision using the map. 1, I think there's mountain range up to the north, and the forests are to the west. How many hexes away are the forest? 1. So this area is going to be forest area. It's going to take a few hours for them to hike to the forest area in the next section. And I have to roll a random encounter check for this. There's a 4, so there is no random encounter. Then I want to determine whether or not they go to the forest all right. So there's an event that happens, because I think we have to keep events happening to move things along. That is a remote event. So I think the remote event, what this generally means is that something happens off screen. And I think this is a perfect time to draw a remote event, because we have to figure out what happened to Tanar Iveen, which I think is exciting. I realize I haven't put on my threads list here, the main thread, which is prevent Tanar from getting the tome. They haven't done that already, but they now know they have to stop him because they've seen how powerful this magic can be. And so what is this remote event? Let's get some descriptors for it. It's happening to Tanar. Happily disgusting. Oh, and then of course the scene setup as well. Interrupted. 6 to 9 is an interrupt. It's on 6. So we know whatever the scene happens is going to be interrupted. And it's happily disgusting is the descriptor here. I'm going to decide via random roll where on the map that Tanar landed. I think that's a good place to start. I'm going to say there's desert, grassland, mountains, forest, in that order. 3. So he ended up in the mountains, which are to the north, we decided. And I'm going to, again, randomly determine which hex he is up here. So I'm going to 26, and then I'm going to roll a 4. The way I'm doing this, since I figure the tens place could either be a 0, a 1, or a 2. On 1 and 2, I was going to say it's a 0. On 3 and 4, it's a 1. And then on 5 or 6, it would have been a 2. So in this case, It's going to be a 1, and then I'm going to roll this again. So 1 through 6, 1. We know that it's 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we know that it is in the top 4. 2. 1, 2. This is where the mountains for Tanar appeared. It is in a larger mountain range there, I think. Or we'll find out what it is. And then what happened is that it's happily disgusting. I think Tanar was a little bit mad, slightly driven insane. And I think he's ended up in a dinosaur graveyard. Because that's disgusting. Elephants have graveyards. I'm going to say this is like a brontosaurus graveyard. And he comes to, and it just right near 2 decomposing monsters. Brontosaurus. So there are these 2 colossal long-necked tree grazers. They're slow and peaceful, but they are just disintegrating, and it smells terrible. And he's going to dust himself off, look around, and hold the book up in the air. Hold the book up in the air. And just begin laughing maniacally to the sky. There are critters that hear him scurry about. Above him, a pterodactyl flies. And I think that's it. I think that's the scene. I don't think we need to know much else that's going on there. We do know that I should adjust the chaos factor here. We know that Garon and Korrawan seem to have things under control from the last scene. And if things are under control, the scene resulted in character setbacks, decreased by 1. If the scene resulted in character victories, the higher the chaos factor. They were under control. They're going to go up to here. Because at this point, they're looking for shelter. Are they able to find shelter? I'm going to give it a 50-50 chance. And since this is a chaos factor of 7, it goes up. So any 2 will, so I'm going to draw 2, and any 1 yes. Exceptional yes, they are able to find shelter. I think the shelter is a sort of burrow nestled in the woods. I'm going to say, does this go expected? Their burrow, they're going to try to, in the ground, are they able to settle down, eat, and rest essentially, because they need it. Just because they've had a long day being sucked into this other world. If it's a 7, so this scene is altered, which doesn't prevent the players from bunking down, but it does put up a minor complication. What is that descriptor of that complication? Fully aromatic. I think that makes sense. So they go to this place and it just stinks. It stinks so much. It sort of like something died in there, or there's just shit in there or something. So they're not going to be able to use this space as a place to rest. This time a random encounter using the Shadowdark rules, since I think it's been a few turns, and it is a 1. So something does happen to them. I haven't really come up with random encounter tables yet, but let's get a descriptor and see what this random encounter is. So it's playfully rare. I think what's going to happen here is they're going to have their first encounter with one of the other species that live here in the ShadowLost. Let's find out how far away this playfully rare thing is. You roll for distance. It is a 4, which means it is near. As Garon and Korrawan are going through the forest looking for another place to hunker down, this baby Scrag is still following them, and they're letting it because they wouldn't know what else to do with it, and they wouldn't know what else to do. They hear a rustling in the leaves. What is the reaction check? I'm doing a reaction check now. 6 is hostile. And I'm going to roll for the number of these things that there are. I think a D4 is a good way to start. 1. They hear rustling up in the leaves. And as they look up, they see it's a person, but they have this furry face. And they look at a long tail and stripes and huge eyes. Its fur, it is covered in fur, is gray with black stripes. And as Garon and Koralwan make eye contact with this thing from, it's up in the canopy, they hear inside their heads, "Who are you? Get out of my forest. Get out of this forest." And Garon and Koralwan are very startled at this. And they look at each other because they know they didn't hear it with their ears, but they heard this in their heads. "You have been warned." And whatever this thing was scampers off through the canopy. They do eventually find shelter, and they're going to rest for the night as the sun is going down. Are they going to be able to successfully rest? Yes, but a random event if there's anything between 1 and 6, which this is. And I guess the last scene of them finding shelter would move this chaos factor up to 8 because they had that under control. So random event, PC positive. Okay, so I think that they're both going to burn a ration. They didn't have any time or really the willpower to want to go hunting or anything like that. And actually, this thing is still hungry, this Scrag. And so Garon's going to give them another ration. Supposed to be a 2. So Garon is back up to full HP. So I think this PC positive event we're going to say is that the Scrag is warming up to Garon Peel. It's a baby. It is scared for the night. Garon feeds it. And the thing cuddles up with him over the night. There's a thunderstorm. Again, they're in like another like burrow kind of situation. And the thing is afraid of the crashes of lightning, the crashes of thunder throughout the night. They notice that there's a moon, but it stays pretty low to the horizon, actually. It never really fully rises into the sky. And then the next morning, the 3 of them wake up, Garon, Koralwan, and the Scrag, the baby Scrag. And for the first time, Garon and Koralwan notice that there are 2 suns in the sky. One is larger and the other one is smaller. Oh, and I should say that since they had to light a fire for the evening, that used up 3 of their last 4 torches. So as of this moment, only Koralwan holds their 1 torch. And that's because the rules in Shadowdark say that if you want to have a campfire, you have to use 3 torches. You put 3 torches in to make a campfire. And these guys are going to go hunting for some wood, which shouldn't be too hard to find. So I'm going to see how it goes with them hunting for torchwood. Expected. So I'm going to say they're able to collect enough for 2d4. So that is 7. Probably more than they need. But who knows? They are going to begin to take their bearings. They think that there's probably people here, and they're going to look for a river and try to follow it because there's probably a settlement near a river. So, are they able to find a river in this forest? I'm going to say likely. Since this is now an 8, I'll actually add 2 to it. So, I'm going to draw 4, and it has to be any yes. Yes. And then how does this go in an event? Expected. So they're able to find a river. Do they want to follow it up or downstream? I think they're wary of that thing that told it to get out of the forest, and they think that following it downstream will probably lead out of the forest. Do they decide to follow it downstream? I'm going to say likely. It's going to be actually 4. It's yes. And they're going to start following it for a while. And I'm going to roll random encounter check. That doesn't happen. And at this point, that's a few scenes. And they have gotten up to chaos factor of 9 because they've had it under control so far. As they meandered downstream, I think something's got to happen. So we're going to pull an event card, move towards a thread. Right now, the only thread we have is Stop Tanar. How are they going to be able to move towards that thread? Let's get a event description. Jovial. Oh, shuffle. When this card is drawn, complete your action you were doing by drawing a certain number of cards. When done, reshuffle the Mythic deck. Jovially modern. I think that they have to find something here. I think if they're going to move towards the one thread we have, I think mystery creature. I actually think that's the thread that we're going to find them on here. Jovial and modern is, I think they're going to come to as they're wandering down the river, they're going to come to a mill. And I'm going to shuffle this deck because it told me to before I have any more questions. So that deck is shuffled. Is the mill still in operation? I'm going to say 50-50. So because this is a cast factor of 9, going to go up 2. So any 3, any being a yes, no, and no. The mill is not still active. It seems to be in ruins. And as they investigate it, the reason why this is joyfully modern is because there is a sign of civilization, some sort of intelligent life here, but they cannot ascertain. Are there any clues to the people who built this? I'm going to say 50-50. Yes, there are clues. Let's get a descriptor of that clue. Violently valuable. So I think that as they're looking through the wreckage of this, they're able to find an interesting weapon. And I think this weapon is violently, obviously, and valuable because weapons are valuable. This weapon is a hand axe made from stone. It's obviously been chiseled away and has a wooden handle that's been sanded somehow over time, and it's strapped to the head of the hand axe. And Garon picks it up and messes around with it and says, "Hey, this isn't half bad. I don't mind that. I'm going to be able to put this to use." And that's going to be added to his inventory. And then I'm going to roll a d6 to see if there's any other treasure there. There is not, but this is worth 1 XP. So they each got their first experience point. In Stone Hand Axe, I have statted out already. So they're going to keep on following the river down because if there's a mill, there must be a settlement or something nearby. Are they able to find something like that? And we'll go see if they can find something. Their scene is interrupted by what? An NPC action. What's the descriptor of that? Very nondescript. I think that as they're traveling, following the river, they eventually make it back out into the forest. So we're going to go back to our notebook and we're going to say more forest here. And they were able to find a river. That led out into some grasslands. So they've made their way back out into some grasslands and they see one figure up on the ridge. And the reaction is going to be neutral. It seems to be observing them. This figure seems to be observing them, but it doesn't seem to pay them much mind until Gowron gives it away. And as he does that, it starts coming down the hill. At first it's walking, but every once in a while it gets on all fours like an ape just for a moment and lifts itself back up. As this person gets closer, Garon and Corwan can tell that it's looks stout, rugged, human-like in some ways, but with a thick brow. And it's wearing clothes, simple garments. And he's going to talk to them. Who are you people? Who are you people? Now, Garon and Corwan can understand this person, but it's speaking some kind of common, but it's not a dialect they're very familiar with, but they can understand it enough. They introduce themselves. I'm Garon. This is my friend Corwan. We've arrived here through some sort of a magic that neither of us are familiar with. And we're looking for someone. Have you seen them? Who are you looking for? A dwarf. Are you familiar? What is dwarf? It's a person, maybe doesn't look too unlike yourself, but generally he would definitely speak differently than you. Everyone I know speaks like me. Oh, so there are other people here? Garwan says. We've been traveling, and if there's somewhere that we could go with people where we could get rest, we'd appreciate it. Yes, yes, come with me, for today will be very long. And Corwan asks, what do you mean today will be long? This person points at the sky and says, the daughter is running away. And he points to the smaller of the two sons. And Garon and Corwan notice now that it seems that the smaller of the sons is moving towards the larger son in a way that they hadn't noticed before. Let's sort that out later. They introduce themselves. I am Goron, this is Corwan. And this person replies, 20 and 4. Then I'm just using the name for myself a little stable. Lemzar. Great name. Add that to the characters list. And then we're going to add them to the characters section here. Tanar is going to get his own page in case things happen there. And this is Lemzar, Lemzar. Excellent. Lemzar is a little bit suspicious of the Scrag, though. Can they convince Lemzar to let them take the Scrag? I'm going to say it's very unlikely, but because the chaos factor is 9, it goes up 2 slots, so it's a 50-50. No, exceptional no. He won't let them take the Scrag even to the edge of the encampment. So I think they have to let the baby Scrag go because they care more about this. So I think maybe a threads list is going to be baby Scrag. I think they're going to want to find that baby Scrag at some point. Do the baby Scrag have a name? Let's give it a name. 7 and 19. Let's do one more for the fun of it. 4. Salung. 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 The Scrag is what they referred to it as. So, Garon is going to give it one last ration. And they are going to make their way to the village where Lemzar lives. And I think that's a good place to let it off, to let things be. We're not going to move the chaos factor since it did go in their favor again. And we're going to pick it up with them going towards the village. If you want to see what happens next in this adventure in the ShadowLost, please like this video and of course subscribe to it. You'll also find links to everything Night Noon Games down in the description below, including our newsletter, where you can keep up to date with what's going on with Night Noon Games. You can also find a link down to the Twitter and Instagram feeds, as well as the website and itch page down below. If you have any suggestions on how to make this video series better, or where you would like to see our heroes Garon and Koron going next, also what theories you have for what Tanar is going to do next, I'd love to see you posting those down in the comments below. So please post away and maybe I can work that into the story. Until our next adventure, stay inspired and keep those dice rolling. Thanks for watching.